Welcome to the FoodClues podcast, where we dive deep into the world of holistic health and wellness, conquering your food allergies and intolerances one bite at a time. I'm your host, Dr. Alexis Sams, holistic physical therapist, food allergy specialist, but you can call me the food allergy doc. With this podcast, I'm all about helping you conquer your food allergies naturally. Through my unique FoodClues treatment approach, I've helped hundreds of people uncover the root causes of their food reactions and achieve true freedom from allergies and intolerances by identifying the missing links between their trigger foods and the underlying causes driving those triggers. In each episode, I'll be sharing the latest in my holistic health practices. I'll also be sharing transformative success stories. I'll bust some common myths surrounding healthcare and food allergy management and provide practical tips to support your healing journey. Whether you're struggling with chronic food allergies or looking for natural ways to manage other symptoms and enhance your well-being, this podcast is for you. Today's episode is packed with insights and actionable advice for better health that's right up your alley. So let's get started on the path to a happier, healthier you. Hey there, friends. I posted a couple weeks ago for you guys to vote on 3 foods that you wanted me to break down in terms of food clues. Votes were in, and the top 3 that I'm going to be talking about are egg, gluten, and dairy. So today I'm going to cover egg. And basically I'm just going to give you kind of like an overview, a breakdown of like how my brain works and how the food clues approach works to helping people overcome egg resistances, whether it's an allergy or an intolerance. If you haven't heard me talk about the spectrum of food reactions and how even though allergies and intolerances do have some differences, they actually funnel down to similar beginnings, let me know. Comment below if you want the link to that video. It's basically talking about my FAST theory, the food allergy spectrum theory. You can listen to that as well. But I'm going to focus on talking about eggs. So somebody comes in, they want to work with me, they want to work through the Food Clues program, and they have an egg allergy. The symptoms can give some information as I work closer towards the end of the treatment framework, when we're really trying to actually like heal things up, tie up loose ends. But the framework starts out with getting details and figuring out what is driving the resistance to the egg allergy or resistance to egg to begin with. So I guess the first thing that I would say that starts off the entire Food Clues approach is, one, realizing that the reaction to the egg is just that. It's a reaction. It's a response. It's an effect that happens due to a cause. So that's kind of thing number 1. And knowing that it's a reaction and an effect, the first thing that we start doing is looking for information that can point us to the cause, because ultimately the cause is what we want to treat. So Food Clues tells me that characteristics or nutrients in eggs, especially like the heavy duty, like the high driving, maybe I shouldn't say high driving, but most plentiful, that's probably the better way to say it. The more plentiful nutrients within the egg are going to be kind of like the first ones that I look for in terms of that being the next step in identifying the ultimate cause. So 2 things usually are your heavy hitters in Food Clues when we come to eggs. It's usually the protein, the albumin, or the protein that is more found in the yolk part, but there are elements of proteins throughout the entire egg. But basically, the yolk can be the problem, signifying or throwing my antenna up towards more of a protein issue. Or if you happen to know that the yolk is more of a problem, the yolk has a relatively significant quantity of sulfur in it. So if you know that egg whites don't necessarily bother you, but egg yolks do, food clue number 2 for eggs is sulfur. So again, somebody comes in and they say they have an egg intolerance and egg allergy. The first 2 things that I'm thinking of is, 1, it's cause or an effect, and 2, I got to figure out if they're more reacting to the protein part, or are they more probably reacting to the sulfur part? Um, I guess the other concept with understanding that the reaction is a response or a effect that has a cause. The third concept that I probably want to add to that is that the reaction that happens is your body's avoidance or protective response. It's saying, hey, there's something in this food, there's something in this egg that I can't handle, I can't deal with, and in the meantime, while I can't handle it or can't deal with it, don't put it in me. This is me telling you I don't want this in my body. And the actual symptom can actually give me a clue of why it can't handle, or where the problem is that it can't be handled. So if it's like if you get like the swollen lips, itchy mouth type thing with eggs, your mouth and the inside of your mouth and your lips is actually part of your digestive tract. So that lets me know, hey, I got to start looking for clues to that might correlate to or point me to a more specific issue within their digestive tract. Understanding that the digestive tract includes esophagus, stomach, small, large intestine, colon. So again, egg allergy, I know it's a cause. I know that that's a rejection symptom. I'm going to narrow it down to probably a protein issue or a sulfur issue. Okay, what's next? Then I start looking for other clues in your history, or I'll start asking questions to the client to help me narrow down if I want to go the protein route or if I want to go the sulfur route. How do I know which one I want to go with? For proteins, sometimes I look for other food clues. Does this person have a hard time with like heavy duty proteins? Does steak, red meat, chicken, do they have like a texture issue with those foods? Do those foods not quite agree with them? That they decide that they had issues digesting those foods a while back, so now they're vegetarian because they know that like meats don't quite agree with them? That can be another sign or suggestion of protein related issues or difficulty managing proteins. Let's see, what else? If I think of another example, like I'll let you know. Usually they present themselves within like your intake or your background information when I'm looking like through clients' information. So it's easy for me to kind of pick out and zone in on. But that's kind of the next like logical step. That said, as somebody moves through the framework, the actual FoodClues framework, I know it's going to sound like I'm kind of contradicting myself, but the work that I have put into the framework over the years actually covers a multitude of bases. So even though I want to be able to narrow down a little bit more efficiently if the problem with the egg resistance in this example is more protein or sulfur related, that's to help me bridge the knowledge gap, help to explain things better to the client, help them feel more comfortable about why their body is going through certain things. Something just came up to me, like lifestyle wise, they may have joint pain, specifically with activity or exercise. Because exercise builds up lactic acid. Proteins are made of amino acids. So difficulty managing proteins a lot of times shows up in other signs or symptoms of difficulty managing other types of acids. So this egg person might have a lactic acid, a lactose intolerant problem. They might have joint pain, like I said, because lactic acid builds up with activity. Estrogens have a significant acidic quality to them as well. So you may see, or that same person with the egg allergy may also have menstrual issues. They might have a heavy bleeding or bad menstrual cramps, signs of elevated acid levels that correspond with the menstrual cycle. So acid-related issues a lot of times show up, or yes, I guess I could say it like that. Acid-related issues a lot of times show up in the history of somebody who has like the protein issue with egg. People with the sulfur issue with egg, they can have like smell and jewelry sensitivities a lot. Get that a lot. What's another thing? It was right on the tip of my tongue. Oh, that can be. It's not 100%. It's not exact, but it is very common with people who have difficulty tolerating the sulfur part to have a lot of skin issues, like the eczema, like rashes, redness in their skin, moles, freckles, things like that. Especially like darker moles, darker freckles, skin issues. A lot of times are common in people with that have more of a sulfur resistance. Side note: it is totally uh, you can have both. Trying to find the word to say it, but like an egg is allergy, resistance, intolerance, sensitivity. It can be from both things. It can be from other things within the egg as well. Those just tend to be the two primary heavy hitters. So, get all that information, and like I said, it helps to educate the client. It often helps to answer the questions for where they may have struggled in the past with other programs and taken other measures to try to resolve um, their reactions. Because if there hasn't been an approach to one, looking closer into how their body handles protein and sulfur, and two, actually addressing those things, those are two big opportunities that likely are the reason that they're still struggling the way they are. So, like I said, I've put a lot of work, research, and I continuously read and research and put little tweaks in the framework here and there. But the essence of the framework is created to cover just about any major dysfunction or any major setback that would cause the body to have issues with protein and or sulfur, again with the egg allergy case. So I'm going to take you through the framework and kind of keep it in the context of egg. So first protocol in the framework is within the cleanse stage, where we do a lymph and liver flush. That's just setting the stage for the actual intervention and the actual healing that will take place. Your lymph and liver are very largely responsible for eliminating and releasing things from the body. So if they are already backed up to begin with, and then we try to go and fix some things, and we send it into a backed up liver or a backed up lymph system, we're just setting ourselves up for disaster. So the first stage is the cleanse stage, to literally just prepare the runway, clear the path for your body to be able to release and eliminate toxins, germs, things that come up next. The second and third regimens are within the protect phase, phase 2. They have to do with normalizing and regulating vagus nerve function. We commonly associate vagus nerve with our fight or flight response, and it totally does. However, it is also one of the main nerves that communicates with our inflammatory cells and our inflammatory proteins. So if there's an issue with the vagus nerve in the first place, then we likely aren't getting good communication for our inflammatory cells and our inflammatory proteins, which can drive the ultimate cause related to your food response. So, second process or second regimens focus on regulating vagus nerve. The third thing that we start to do is start to focus a little bit more on getting acid management under control. Working with clients, researching, I've come to realize how easy it is, particularly in America, but it can happen anywhere, for our bodies to get overly acidic with all the things that we do and consume in the country. So similar to stage 1 cleanse, we do a first kind of overall neutralizing, breaking down of any like kind of large acidic components in our body. And again, like your history kind of helps me zone in on how much time we might spend in this regimen, or how much you might need it. But we do go ahead and do a preparation, acid neutralization, and elimination, kind of like an acid flush, again, to prepare the body for what's coming next. The next kind of setup, or the next phase in regimens, are normalizing inflammation response and control. As we go and start addressing those underlying causes, creating the resistance to the protein, or the difficulty managing the protein, or the difficulty managing the sulfur, as we get closer to that, when we start actually digging down and treating that, it can spawn an inflammatory response in the body. And if your body in the first place already has an exaggerated or an excessive inflammatory response, or it has a low ability to control your inflammatory response, again, we're kind of heading for disaster. So, again, we set the stage before we actually start addressing your underlying issues by doing a first and initial calming and regulating of your inflammatory response and inflammatory control ability in the body. So the first few regimens that we go through and the first two stages of the framework, cleanse and protect, all set the stage for actually addressing the underlying cause in this example that's creating your egg reactions. So the middle third, because there's 6 stages, the middle third of the framework goes to actually fixing the issues. So those that underlying cause that I was talking about, so we talked about there's a problem with egg within the egg example, narrowing down or causing an issue with proteins versus sulfur. The next step or the next question that I would ask that helped me develop the framework, or the next thing that I would explain to the client would be, okay, the next thought process would be, if we know that there's a protein or maybe a sulfur issue, why are we having a protein or a sulfur issue? What is driving the protein or the sulfur issue? Again, we get some clues from other symptoms in the person's medical history, but most of the time it funnels down into just a few ultimate causes. Unresolved or unaddressed infection, unresolved or unaddressed toxicity. Now, when I say unresolved, that means you might have tackled it in the past in some other treatment before, but it might not be fully out of you. So that's what I mean by unresolved. Unaddressed means nobody's talked about it, nobody's attempted to help your body heal from it, but you've got some symptoms of it. So, unresolved, unaddressed infections, unresolved or unaddressed toxicities might be these ultimate causes creating the protein or the sulfur resistance. Unresolved or unaddressed outcomes after a surgery. I've had a lot of clients who, after a surgery, did not get all the post-surgical care that I'm going to say I would think of and I would provide for a client. The number one is a toxin flush from like all the medications during the surgical procedure, like the anesthesia, like all that stuff. It can still kind of be floating around in your body, you know, in your nooks and crevices, you know, deep down in your tissues, or it could be stuck in your liver if your liver is having a hard time processing it. So surgery can have an impact or can be one of the ultimate causes that hasn't been fully resolved or addressed that can cause reactions to foods. Other types of unresolved or unaddressed injuries. So a broken bone, a muscle tear, a car accident, some other type of physical trauma that your body's been through, and it may have gotten some care but hasn't fully resolved, or it may have gotten no care. You know, you were told to walk it off, or it was something that happened and you didn't even think, you know, stop to think that it was, you know, a big deal. And these things happen to all of us. The first thing that's coming to my mind are like concussions. Concussions will affect fluid flow in the body. The inflammatory response with concussions, if it doesn't get appropriately addressed, it can spark and start that cycle of chronic inflammation that doesn't get resolved, and then leave your body open to infections, other toxins building up that your body doesn't get a fair chance to fight off because it's got something that it, you know, still hasn't been addressed. If any of this side note is sounding like confusing, or it sounds like it's so many things pulling from all this, it should. It totally should, because these are the details and these are the intricacies of what goes on like in my work as a functional medicine specialist. So this is not your job to figure out. This is not your job to identify and take care of. So if it's sounding confusing and like you feel like you're compelled to figure all this out, don't feel that way. It's not your responsibility. That's why it's my job. That's why it's my life's work, because it's a lot, right? So Um, Let me just recap real quick. Egg allergy, you got some responses. Your body is saying, no, don't give me this. I can't handle it. Two main reasons why: protein issue, maybe sulfur issue, maybe. There might be other clues to help me narrow it down. Either way, we go through our framework. We, one, cleanse, prepare the body through flushing liver and lymph system to make sure that it can handle any future elimination. We calm down the vagus nerve because more than likely we've got some dysfunction going on in there that we want to get under control so we can have good communication when we move further and start really tackling the issues driving the protein or the sulfur resistance. Number three, we do a first flush of any acids that are built up in the body. I've just come to know that that tends to be something that blocks a lot of progress, so I put it in the beginning as part of stage 2, the protect and preparation stage. Next, we focus on calming down and making sure that your inflammatory responses and control are nice and regulated. That you don't have an excess or over-responsive inflammatory performance, so that when we go after whatever's driving the protein and the allergy resistance, your inflammatory system doesn't wig out when we start addressing those things. We said some of the major causes that we might come up to are unresolved issues from surgery, unresolved issues from old accidents or physical trauma, unresolved or unaddressed toxicities, unresolved or unaddressed infections. And now we move on to stage 3. Stage 3 is the elimination stage. We head back to the liver and we comb through it. Your liver alone is responsible for, they say, like 500 plus, I think it's like 537, something like that. Over 500 functions in our body. We start combing through and making sure that all of our liver processes and all of our liver cells are functioning appropriately. Usually that's where we find one of the causes. A lot of times our underlying issues related to our food avoidances have something to do with the dysfunction in the liver. It has something to do with one of those 500 functions. So there's a specific liver function regulation and restoration phase in phase 3, the elimination phase, that starts off that phase. After that, we do 2 specific regimens for germ elimination and toxin elimination. We do germ elimination first because germs are our living microorganisms. Those are the bacteria, the viruses, the fungi, the parasites, all the living things. We tackle that first. If we tackle toxins first, one, we could, but your living things would still be growing and probably spreading and probably spinning us in circles at this point, causing, issues along the way. So we go after the living things, we kill those off, get those eliminated first. Then we tackle toxins, which are non-living substances that can rise to an elevated level and cause issues. So within those surgeries, those physical trauma accidents, those infections or toxicities, we take care. This is where we actually go in and take care of them. And yes, I do have every client go through both germ and toxin elimination. They usually have a chicken-egg type relationship. They may not be the primary driver of your reaction, but they likely are impacting your immune and other organ performance, such that if we didn't address one or the other, or if we focused on one and not both, it may down the road just leave an opportunity for your body to produce another food reaction or another food resistance, because this would have been holding it up. This would be something that the body is focused on and can't handle, that will cause a rejection for another food or the same food again in the future. So if you're wondering, like, if I don't really have symptoms of infection, do I still have to do like the germ regimen? Yes, you do. Or yes, I would strongly encourage it, and that's why it's in my standard framework, because I've learned over the years working with clients, it ends up showing up and, kicking our butts down the road. So after cleanse stage, then protection stage, then elimination stage, then we start coming across like the back end of the framework, the healing end of the framework. This is where it gets kind of cool as well. So we start a regimen that I call Restore, where we generally just start rebuilding the integrity and the function of your body. We start rebuilding, damaged tissues, vessels that have been like beaten up, that have been swollen, for so many years, um, stomach linings, under skin linings, just all the organ tissue, cells. We really just start healing and repairing those. We also start working on chemical reactions. The ones that are supposed to happen in our body are chemical reactions, are um, cycles, body cycles, the daily cycles, our circadian rhythm, our menstrual cycles, our other monthly hormone cycles that aren't menstrual but still go on a monthly cyclical rotation. We start focusing on all of those type areas, healing, repairing, and that's why I call that phase restoration. We start restoring the body back to as normal of a performance that it possibly can be. After we get through restoration, we get to kind of the part that everybody's kind of been waiting for. We get to kind of like it's not quite customized, but not everybody at this phase goes through the exact same regimen in the exact same way. This is where you get your specials, is what I call it, your specials regimen. It is a regimen that's created. It has, most of the regimens in the specials regimen have like a lot of supplements and a lot of solutions in common. However, there are a couple that are different between what your body needs to focus on. So I'll give you an example. Chronic pain is a special. So there's a regimen at this point that we use to help further reduce chronic pain, with the understanding that a lot of clients are starting to notice symptoms. They're starting to notice that their pain is reducing a little bit, but we really zone in and focus on details of further chronic pain relief here. Skin breakouts, rashes, hives, that's another specials, if that is one of your bigger, outward symptoms. Let's see, anaphylactic reactions. They can go across stages from mild to severe and life-threatening. I am currently working, as of July 2024, I'm currently working on the advanced anaphylactic regimen. However, the mild and moderate ones have been put in place and have been working really well. So if you're having anaphylactic responses to your food reactions, this is where we would tackle that specifically. And you may be asking, why are we tackling all of this specifically? We're tackling all of this specifically at this point. So I should say that. Why are we tackling it now and at this point and not like closer to the beginning? In essence, because these are the symptoms. We're addressing the symptoms, but the symptoms were not the actual problem. We spent the first half in the other regimens that I've talked through really preparing the body for healing and actually tackling the problems that were driving them. Now we are here into symptom management, and this is where clients actually start to see their bodies turn the corner in their symptoms, because we have given their body the support that they needed that addressed the actual problem driving the symptoms. So, like I said, that's where we do specials. And then our final stage is your optimize and your maintenance stage. That's where we really just kind of put like the big period at the end of your FoodClues framework sentence. We really just wrap the body up with additional nutrient support. We start guiding your body towards more maintenance, more regular support to keep all the work that you've put into your body to get to this point nice and stable and consistent. After that, there are a couple of options. Again, after this, clients like Hannah, who you might have seen on social media, she specifically had an egg resistance, and now eggs are fine. You might have heard me talk about Ashley, who I worked with a couple of years ago, who had a hard-boiled egg resistance. And you may have heard me tell the story about talking generally about food reintroduction for eggs, and we were going to do a small food reintroduction of eggs, and she put the entire hard-boiled egg in her mouth before I could even get out the full sentence about the food reintroduction and how it was supposed to be a small bite. But she said it tasted really good, and she hasn't had an issue since. So we kind of got a break on that. That was not my original intention. It never will be with any client. Um, but after the framework is complete, which is, my point now, after the framework is complete, we can move on to food reintroductions. If that's comfortable, if that's desired for the client, we can move on to a lot of clients after they've overcome a food reaction have asked about getting off of medications. So we work with their medical team to start safely weaning them off of medications. We can talk about more effective and efficient um, methods for weight loss. I've definitely come to learn working with clients that even though there can be some changes in weight that clients benefit and experience in the framework, the crux of weight loss and things like that have not really turned a corner until after the framework is done. That is because most of the time weight gain usually is some type of compensation and protection that the body's putting in place to keep something safe. And there's a natural order and a natural law within the body that a body will never let go of a compensation until the solution is presented. So in this case, the solution would be the complete framework, making sure that the body is completely healed and supported. Then I've had clients turn the corner and start seeing changes in their weight when they started or where they have experienced a plateau in the past, things like that. Clients have always also wanted support with regulating a menstrual cycle, fertility, things like that. So all of those things are possible and things that we're able to work with after the FoodClues framework has been completed, and ultimately after they've achieved more freedom, more relief, less limitations from the food restrictions that they used to experience. So that's egg. In an example. Again, I just want to stress that if you're able to pick up some of the details or just, some of the concepts and how the framework works and how I work with clients, that's great. But if you didn't, and it sounded like super confusing and super overwhelming, that's okay too, because that is the essence of why you need a guide to help you. This is why you need a program to take care of these things for you, to answer these questions for you, to be by your side as your body goes through this experience. Yeah, I just really want to stress that. I had a client, I think 2 days ago, she was in my office, and um, I was doing a checkup on her, and we were changing around some things in her regimen, and you could just see like the fluster in her face, and you could see her becoming overwhelmed, and we just took a breath, and I was just like, is everything okay? You ask whatever questions that you need. And she was just like, it just seems like a lot, and it just seems really overwhelming, and I don't understand everything, and I don't know what to do. And I just looked at her, and we've been working together for a while, and we have a really good rapport. So I just looked at her and I was like, can I tell you like the truth about that? And she said, yeah. And I said, that's not your job, because it isn't. So if like I said, if that's how you feel sometimes about managing your food allergies or intolerances, to a large extent, that's not your job. That's my job. That's my life's work, and that is, my job in essence. And I went on to tell her, I said, if the check engine light in your car like goes off, like, do you get this flustered? Do you, oh my gosh, I don't know what it means. I don't know what to do about it. I'm overwhelmed. And I know it sounds very pragmatic, but it's true. So I asked her the question, and she looked at me. She's like, no. And we kind of like had that face as we're looking at to each other because we knew what the answer was. And I said it. I was like, no, you take it to the mechanic. You call the mechanic. And then when you get to the mechanic, are you sitting there looking over their shoulder and like trying to figure out and listen to all the details of them going through all the things to figure out what's wrong with your car? No. Like, you literally drop your car off, and and they call you and they tell you what the problem is, and then you decide what you want to do with it, because they're expensive. But my point is, I'm not saying that, I'm not necessarily equating the importance of our bodies to the importance of cars. That's not my point. My point is in other cases, when something important to us or something that we cherish goes wrong, there is an established professional who is experienced and well versed in the rehabilitation or identifying the problem and fixing the problem in that context, and you rely on them to be able to figure it out what it is, and you have peace of mind knowing that that person is figuring it out for you, and then you guys have a conversation and you are an active, partner in overcoming whatever the obstacle is. And the same thing exists here. Like, this is my job. My job is to put in the blood, sweat, and tears and the research and the work, research the supplements, research the pathways in the body for healing. Like, that is all my job. It is not your job to be looking all of that up. It is not your job to know all of those answers. It is not your job to be able to figure all those things out, even though they impact your body. Just like it's not your job to figure those things out to impact your car. So, again, if it sounds confusing, that's okay. Because it's not supposed to be your entire responsibility to know all of those details. So I hope that helps somebody if you're feeling that way. So as I wrap things up, that's how I break down an egg allergy and take it through the framework. So leave some comments. Let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll be back soon with breaking down the other two that you guys voted on, gluten and dairy. Talk to you soon. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the FoodClues podcast. I hope you found today's talk insightful and inspiring as you navigate your journey towards better health and wellness. Ready to take the first step in conquering your food allergies? Visit www.myfoodclues.com/quiz and take the FoodClues quiz today. In less than 5 minutes, you'll get your first food clue to identify the likely causes of your food reactions. This will be your first opportunity to uncover the hidden factors impacting your health and start your journey towards food freedom. Stay connected by following the Food Allergy Doc on Instagram. Enjoy the Food Allergy Freedom Collective on Facebook, where you'll find a supportive community and valuable resources to help you on your path to wellness. And don't forget to subscribe to the FoodClues podcast so you never miss out on an episode. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and share it with someone you know. Thanks for listening, and remember, your food clues are the key to conquering your food allergies. Take the quiz, join our community, and let's achieve food freedom together.